Mr. Matt Leisching. Dude, like I was saying, I don't know how, I've never had you on here before, but nevertheless, here we are, quarantined and all. And welcome to the show, buddy. What's happening?
Yeah, thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
Only a pleasure, man. So just, the usual story at the moment. I'm kind of checking in what everybody's scenario is in this crazy time. I've been seeing you're living with one of your boxers in the same house kind of thing, or what's the scenario and how's it going so far?
Yeah, so I'm staying in. So my girlfriend's parents, they moved out of their house about 6 months ago, and just my girlfriend's sister was living here alone. It's a 5-bedroom place. We have a gym here, we have a pool. So I left my flat in town when lockdown started, and I came here, and 2 of my fighters joined me. And so we've been living under the same roof, training, trying to just stay sane, because I mean lockdown's tough, but as long as I have like the boxes and training, it's something I can do, to keep me busy. So like it's been, I must say, I've been blessed to be here. It's been easier for me. I mean, it's not obviously not the same, but it's still cool. We've been training, keeping busy, still working on doing what we love. So it hasn't been too bad on my side. Obviously, I mean, it's not ideal.
Yeah, but it's definitely not the worst situation. It sounds like it.
No, yeah. My gym is. We an established gym, so the lockdown, yes, it affects us, but we're not going to close our doors or anything like that, so I'm lucky in that way. And so I mean, of course, everyone's losing out, but luckily we're not in a situation where we'll have to close our doors or anything like that. So yeah, but for me it could have been a lot worse, I suppose.
Sure. And that's a nice segue for us. I mean, for the guys that are tuned in and dialed in, they know the relationship between yourself and Don Madge. We've been watching MadFit grow as it goes along. You guys have got a massive facility out there now in Cape Town. So just, I mean, it's quite funny for me if I look at like let's say the status quo of boxing trainers. They're normally grey-haired and been around the block 1,000 times. You're still quite not too grey-haired yet, still quite young in the game. So just talk us through where all of this started for you, where boxing coaching and the love for boxing started to where you are now.
So how much time have we got?
We've got a couple of weeks left, buddy. So you be free.
So for me, I grew up in Johannesburg, so I'm not from Cape Town, and boxing's been in my family since my grandfather. So my grandfather, my great uncle, and all of them, there were 5 brothers, and they all boxed. And the one brother, my great uncle, he went to the Olympics, and he won a bronze medal in the Olympics in 1952. And then he won a Commonwealth gold those 2, and he was they say he was one of the best amateur boxers in South Africa, never to turn pro. So I used to always hear these stories growing up from everyone, I grew up in the south of Joburg, so boxing was quite a big culture there.
Sure.
And then my dad was always in boxing. My dad never did boxing seriously or for a living or anything, but my dad was always involved. And my uncle, and it just went down the generations, And then when I was 14, they took me to the gym. My first gym, I trained under Anton Gilmore in the south of Joburg. He currently trains Ricardo Malajika. He's had many champions. He fought Cassius Baloy for a world title back in the day. So I always really looked up to him, and my dad was good friends with him. So they took me there when I was young, and then Anton took me under his wing. And I just sort of took to it, I just loved boxing, and then I just trained every day. But it was so funny how things progressed for me. Like when I was at that age, I wanted to be a professional boxer. That was my goal. I wanted to be a professional boxer. And then I boxed under Anton for a couple of years, and then I moved to Cape Town when I was 17, 18, and then I did matric here, and then I left school and I was considering going back to Joburg, because the boxing that in 2008, boxing in Cape Town, there wasn't much around,
Yeah.
It was nothing like Joburg. So I wasn't sure what I was going to do. And then I was back and forth. And then I started, my dad was training me. I put a little gym in under my thatch roof in my parents' house in Cape Town. And I only had one or two mates. I was sort of stuck between, but I didn't know if I wanted to live in Joburg, you know. You can't compare living in the south to living in Cape Town by the beach, you know, you can't compare.
You got to be careful now, dude. You got to be careful.
No, but all the guys back home will agree with me, you know. There's nothing wrong with the south, but it's just the lifestyle's very different. I don't know if that lifestyle suited me, you know.
Sure.
So my gym was in Qurantine in the south, which there's nothing wrong with it, but you know, compared to running in the streets of Qurantine to running on the beach in Camps Bay, it's different, you know what I mean?
Yeah, slightly.
So you know what I'm trying to say? So that I was sort of enjoying it. And then torn between the two, and then I got an opportunity. Anton from Joburg got me this first gym. So the first white collar gym in the CBD was Harrington's Boxing Club. It was quite a well-known gym because they were one of the first guys to do the white collar stuff, and they had a couple of amateurs there. And then what happened was they split. They left, and then another Dutch couple took that gym over. And I was 19. So then Anton Gilmore, they got in touch with Anton, and then they asked me to come to box at that gym. So then I was like, okay, that's cool. It's in the CBD, because I was staying in Joburg at the time, and I wanted to be based in the CBD of Cape Town. And then I just went there, and I trained there. And the harder I was training, and the more I was training, the more people wanted me to teach them, you know.
Sure.
So then I started coaching a little bit, and I found out like the coaching was something I really enjoyed. And every time I wanted to compete in Cape Town, it just never went my way. Like fighting and competing wasn't going the way I thought it would, you know. And then I thought, well, maybe coaching was creeping up in the back of my mind, you know. And then I got a trainer, Qurantine. He was a former South African champion. He beat Mzonke Fano, who became an IBF world champion. And he coached me for 2 years in Cape Town. And he was really good, a really good trainer. But at the same time, he was coaching me, and we were developing a bigger team. So he was like the head trainer, and I was boxing with the guys and coaching with him, and we're developing like a whole different dynamic. It was very different to Joburg, you know. And then when I was 21, when I was 22, I had my last amateur fight when I was 22, and I lost. And then my dad said to me, he's like, Matt, but you're trying to be a boxer, but you've got 15 fighters, you're training clients, you're making a career out of everything but fighting, you know. And then I took a step back, and I'm like, that's true. Like when I was 21, 22, I really had 10 or 15 fighters. I was really full with clients. I was like gravitating towards coaching without even knowing, you know. So then I met, then another gym opened in town. It was open already, and then they asked me to come there they wanted a striking coach, because the MMA, UFC was still new, and they were looking for striking coaches, and I knew nothing about MMA.
Okay.
And then I thought, well, it's a cool market for me to get into and all that. And then when I went to that gym, and then that's when I met Don, and then there was a couple more professionals there, and then I moved over to that gym with all my fighters, and we sort of made a bigger team. And from there, me and Don met. He was, I think he was wrestling on the mat when I walked in at the time in 2012. I think it was just after he fought Leon the first time. And then they asked, and then he was training, and then I held pads for him, and then we gelled really well. We're both the same age, we're like 21 or 22. And then he was looking for a striking trainer in Cape Town, and then I just ended up training him, and then me and Don sort of joined forces, and we were training all the amateur MMA guys. Me and Don were training the boxers. I was training Don. It was like we became such like a force to be reckoned with at the time, you know.
Yeah.
Then I realized, okay, well, this is what I'm meant to do now, you know. And then we just grew from there. And then I think we won. We beat Costa in 2013, and then that's when I got a lot of fighters coming to me, and then I just progressed from there, you know.
Sure, it's one thing that's quite interesting when you watch a guy like Don Madge, and I've probably been waiting to speak to you for quite some time, because a lot of guys don't realize just how good Don's boxing really is. Like we know the Muay Thai, we've seen the Jiu-Jitsu now, we've seen the wrestling, but his boxing is world class. I mean, I've seen him sparring with guys like Boyd Allen, and it's not a easy spar. You know, it's really hard, and he's got very good boxing fundamentals. So it leads me to ask, you know, like, where does your experience come from, and that kind of thing. So that it's cool to kind of get the other side of the story, you know, the your side.
For sure.
So how different? Go for it.
Don always had, Don always had really good hands, even in Muay Thai. His hands were far superior to the other guys, you know. So he was always a well-rounded fighter. But yeah, I think we just clicked well, and you know, from a young age, my box. From when I was 14, I trained with guys that fought for world titles. I sparred with top guys, professionals. So I think it was so important having the right base from a young age, and I didn't realize all those things I went through from when I was 14 years old to 23 really put me in good stead to train fighters and train guys that to not make the same mistakes. And I didn't realize that, you know, some it's not always like you get some good fighters, but they don't all make coaches. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then you get some guys that can fight and make coaches. But I didn't realize that. Well, I realize it now, but at the time, I was quite good at translating information to bring the best out of certain fighters. Because it's all about coaching is all about how you can. It's working with people. You know, it's about how you need to know what each fighter needs, how to bring the best out of each guy. And it was sort of like a knack that I had. Like I could get the best out of. I mean, my one cruiserweight amateur champion, the guy was staying in Constantia, super wealthy. I made him an amateur champion. Next minute, I'll be training a guy, an underprivileged guy who can hardly speak English, and I made him a champion too. So it's two different backgrounds. It's completely different type of training, you know.
Yeah.
So that's when I also realized I had a knack for that, you know.
Sure. And in terms of boxing and coaching, I mean, we've seen you with a couple. Obviously, Don is probably, let's say, the bigger name in MMA that you've worked with. Yeah. But there are other guys in your stable. So, what do you think is in an MMA setup is your role as the boxing coach, and is there specific boxing for MMA?
So, So in MMA, any MMA fighter that I've worked with, I've always just been there, and I've been their striking coach. So there is boxing for MMA, 100%. Certain things you tweak, you know, to avoid takedowns.
Yeah.
Certain ways you would throw punches, certain way you would defend because of the smaller gloves, stuff like that, which you can tweak. But also, being a fight coach, it's also so if I'm working with a fighter, it's not just about his boxing. So if I'm working with an MMA fighter, it's also not just about his boxing, it's about getting him mentally ready, you know, seeing where he's at, seeing how he cuts weight. It's all that experience put in one, you know.
Sure.
So I would work with an MMA fighter, I'd be doing his boxing, but there's a lot more behind the scenes that you also do, you know what I mean? So so that it's a fight game in a whole. Like you'll see a lot of boxing trainers have transitioned to MMA. Yeah, they're just working with their hands, but it's a lot more, you know, a lot more to it than just, you know, boxing.
Sure. And how raw was Don when you first met him compared to now?
When I first met Don, he had a real Muay Thai style, you know.
Yeah.
So he was like, he wasn't raw. You can't use that word really. He was a great fighter even back then. But he was very come forward type of guy, like take one, give one. Like you saw on the Leon Maynard fight, you know. Yeah. The first one, he's like take one, give one. The oath was because I mean obviously in Muay Thai, the style you don't go back in Muay Thai, you know. It's sort of it's going forward. So when I worked with him, it was quite cool to see because I was bringing in, at the time, I was bringing in the best middleweights, some of the best middleweights in the country, boxers, to spar with him. He was sparring with some of the best guys and outboxing everyone, you know, like top boxers at the time. And Don was 22 years old, 23. And then if you look at his progression from when he fought Leon the first time to when he fought Boyd, his boxing was completely different. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he progressed a lot. But also Don, anything Don does, he progresses. He's one of those fighters. You know, you get some fighters that can learn, and some fighters that don't learn as well. But Don, he's just special. You know, he picks up everything, and he just gets better and better all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Matt, one of the funnier questions I thought about that I wanted to speak to you about, because you were there and you were partially involved by means of a fighter. We saw that video that I think went viral. It was a heavyweight boxing fight, and the dude was like bouncing off the ropes, and the rope snapped and fell, and that was all she wrote. Just tell us about that, man. What was going on? It wasn't your fighter who fell through. It was your opponent. Am I correct?
Yeah. So it was our opponent. It's crazy. So Tian is one of my heavyweight fighters. He's 8-0 at the moment. He's at the time he was number 2 in the country, and we're challenging Ruan Visser for the heavyweight title. And it was like very complicated to get Ruan in the ring. He had other plans, and he sort of got injured, and then it was just difficult to get him in the ring. But then Boxing South Africa, we won. We beat the number 2 heavyweight at the time, Josh Pretorius. And then Boxing South Africa made us the number 1, the mandatory defense for Ruan. And so the thing is, the build up to Ruan, we were training for him for a long time, for over a year, you know. And then it was because that obviously we set out to become SA champion, because from there, you know, international stuff opens up, especially for heavyweights. Yeah. So that was a really big fight for Tian, for all of us. And then it eventually happened, and we got in the ring. And it's the craziest thing ever. Like, you think you know boxing, you think you're ready. It was the craziest thing ever. We're in the ring. Imagine that feeling. You warm up. Your fighter's mind. We're ready. We're gonna fight. We're fighting for the heavyweight championship. It's like, you know, we're ready. And then Ruan walks around the ring and falls out. It was crazy. But when he fell out, I looked around and I wasn't sure. I didn't know if the rope broke. I saw the rope was broken. And then obviously I felt for Ruan. I mean, shame that no fighter wants that to happen. Yeah. But then he got up, and then I thought, okay, he's gonna get back in the ring, and then we're just gonna carry on, you know. But, he sort of he went back to the changing rooms, and he hurt his elbow apparently, or his knee. I'm not sure which one it was, and then it got postponed again. Or he said we're gonna do it.
Sore elbow and a bruised ego, I'm sure.
Yeah. So he said no, we're gonna do it in March or April, and then he got banned for steroids. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, I did see that. Yeah, he got quite a heavy sentence. I think like 18 months or something.
4 years. Yeah.
Did he get the full 4 years?
4 years. Yeah. So then. Yeah, so that was and then they rescheduled to fight for the title in like now April, May, but the lockdown happened, so we have to wait again. And the South African champion is sort of what I really wanted, you know. I've had Don. When I was training Don, we won the UFC title, the African title, which was cool. And then in 2018, I won a WBF African title with one of my fighters, David Vajuli. We fought a tough guy from Tanzania, which was cool. And then SA title is always something special about an SA title, you know.
Sure.
So it was something I was really looking forward to, especially a heavyweight. I've always wanted a heavyweight SA champion. It's just, you know, heavyweight, there's something special about a heavyweight.
Yeah.
So then that got put on hold again. So, what can we do?
Talk me through the dynamics of a guy. I mean, you're not a massively tall fella, and you're dealing with Tian Fick. Must be, how tall is he? He looks like 17 meters tall. He's a massive human being.
Yeah, he's a big boy. So we worked it out the other day. He's 3 centimeters shorter than Tyson Fury. So he's 203 meters. Yeah, he's a big boy. You know, and it's so funny. Tian's such a funny story. Eh? He taught me so much, because you never judge a book by its cover. Like, you know, you see a fighter and he hasn't got like he doesn't look that impressive on pads, or he doesn't look that impressive leaving the bag. And so when I first met Tian, I thought, yeah, he's big, you know, maybe he could do something. I think he was 2-0 at the time. But I was sort of in two minds about training, because I thought he doesn't look that, I mean, he's big, but he didn't look that athletic. You know, the way he punched the bag was, you know, his basics weren't even there. He turned out to be, like now at the moment, he turns out to be one of the best fighters I've had. You know what I mean? Yeah, he's just like, he's so awkward, he's so hard to hit, he's tough, he's just really like, I mean, it was just such a lesson for me, because when I first looked at him, I would never have imagined of him becoming fighting for the SA Championship, you know? Yeah. So it's like, it was quite a lesson to me, you know, and now we got offers to fight in America, you know, we got big offers. We actually got an offer to fight on the top ranked show in Mandalay Bay, you know, so that was so it's opened up a lot of doors, and I never expected when I first met Tian to open up the door to top rank for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure. Sure.
I mean, that's also one of my goals. Like, I went to the UFC, that's the top of MMA, and top rank's the top of boxing. So that's also something. I mean, I think that will still happen. If we win the SA title, they're talking, it might even be better for us, because when you win the SA title, you go up 50 spots at least in the box ring. So it'll be better for us. So we'll still probably go. But it's just all on hold now, unfortunately, you know?
Yeah, like the rest of the world, unfortunately. Matt, and that's some cool stories, man. And it's nice to see SA born, homegrown heavyweight boxers as well. Like it leads me, it leads me, and you can use Tian as a great example there. I think it's a nice segue. What do you make of the state of boxing in South Africa at the moment? Because it's, I mean, for the guys out there who are like half in, half out with boxing, like just keep like a narrow eye on it, like myself. Guys like SA Boxing Talk who really put in the effort to kind of like expose the media side of it, and it just seems there's like a constant evolvement. There's new guys coming through all the time, youngsters, and a nice mix. So it's interesting to see from a guy like you who's been around for quite some time like yourself, just to give an opinion on that and what you make of the state of boxing.
So boxing, I mean, the thing about boxing, there's not enough serious promoters at the moment. So there's so many fighters, and there's not enough. So I wouldn't say, no, let me put it this way. Boxing is not dead in South Africa. Yeah. Boxing is very much alive in South Africa. You know, at Golden Gloves, you got guys that are fighting for a lot of money. They're getting a lot.
Sorry, Matt, we're losing you there, dude.
There's East London, promoters that are doing a lot of good shows. So boxing is a lot. Okay. It could be good for us. But I just think a few more promoters, a few more development tournaments to develop certain talent, because it's quite hard to break in there. You know, once you've broken into boxing, when you're 10-0 or 12-0, you know, it's easier. But the up and coming guys sort of sometimes get left behind, you know, because there's just not enough development tournaments. But boxing, I mean, at the moment in South Africa, it's very much alive. You know, before the lockdown, obviously Golden Gloves has been holding the fort for many years, but guys are fighting monthly in East London. There's a couple of development shows in Cape Town. Tian was going to fight for SA Lightweight title in Cape Town. So it's just a lot harder to break through than MMA, you know.
Sure.
But the opportunities are big, you know. It's just I just think maybe if boxing could get back on SABC, it could be a big help for us. But boxing is definitely on its way up in South Africa. But no, it's got a way to go, but it definitely is on its way up.
100%, man. Yeah. It's definitely had a nice, I say a surge over the last couple of years. I think we've seen, like you say, like Golden Gloves, and they've almost gone back to that box and down kind of setup, and really kind of making out of it, which is really cool. And it's nice. We want combat sports to thrive. It's not just MMA, you know what I mean? And boxing is very rich in tradition, and we want to see that doing well.
Yeah.
So
what people don't realize, the most world champions South Africa has made in any sport are boxers.
Yeah.
You know that.
Yeah.
You know, so boxing is such an old sport, and there's obviously we're good at it. South Africans can fight. You know, we're really good. There's good boxers. So there's a lot of opportunity, but I just think there should be. I would love to promote. You know.
Yeah.
But it just takes a lot of time, because at the moment I promote amateur fights. I run the gym. Like training fighters is only one thing that I do, you know.
Yeah.
Training fighters doesn't pay the bills for me. So training fighters is my passion, but it's something that I like try to put a lot of my time into, but it doesn't pay the bills. So in between that, I'm throwing my amateur events in the gym and out of the gym. I was actually booked the Grand Cafe in Cape Town. We're going to throw a big boxing fight there on the 30th of May. That would have been quite cool. So we do like these big events once or twice a year, and then I train all my classes at the gym. I train my one-on-one clients. I've got like nearly 40 one-on-one clients, you know. So the thing is with me, it's quite tough because I've got to train eight people a day. I've got to train my fighters for an hour and a half. I've got to do 2 classes to keep my gym running. My gym admin is hectic, like, you know. So in a perfect world, it would be just training fighters. That's my dream. Like I wake up in the morning, do a session with my fighters, you know, go back home, do another session with my fighters in the afternoon. That would be like the perfect world for me, you know.
Sure.
But it's not that easy, you know, unless someone's willing to sponsor. And you know, but it's not that easy in this country.
No, 100%. It's not it's the labor of love, unfortunately, in combat sports all around. Well, dude.
But you know, the thing is, what's cool is like everything I do in the gym, I enjoy. You know, so I mean, training, even if I'm training people, beginners, people that never boxed before, I love it. You know, so I'm just lucky and blessed to be doing boxing. Even though I have to do so many different avenues of it, it's cool. You know.
Yeah, 100%, man. Matt, that's great. It's nice to finally catch up with you and hear your story. And thank you very, very much for your time, bud. And good luck for the rest of this. So hopefully the gyms can be up and running again sometime soon, man. Sorry, dude. We're losing you there. You still there?
Thank you. Cool, brother. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, buddy. We'll chat to you soon.